Hi, hello, welcome to Traveling with Dave. I'm your host, Dave McGowan. Today I'm going to give you 5 tips on planning a successful family vacation. And the way I'm going to do it is I'm going to use my family vacation in 2001 as an illustration of what you should and should not do on that family vacation. So we're going to talk about that right after this. Before we go anywhere, I just want to ask you to hit that subscribe button, the notification bell, and please hit the like button at the same time. That way a lot more people get to see this video and a lot more people get to learn about the 5 tips on having a really fun family vacation right here on Traveling with Dave. In 2001, my wife and I decided to have a huge family vacation. It was the big time vacation, and it was the vacation to end all vacations. We lived in Raymond, New Hampshire, and we were going to drive from Raymond, New Hampshire to Walt Disney World in Florida. We were going to spend 2 weeks in Florida, drive home, and then the kids were going to go to school. And we started out by getting together with my wife's daughter and her husband, and with their 3 kids. And we talked about going to Disney World. We talked about going to Universal. We talked about how the trip was going to work. At the time that we got together, I said, do you want me to plan this with a schedule, or do you want me to leave everything open? And they said, oh, no, we plan it with a schedule because otherwise we won't get anything done. So that's what I did. So the very first thing I'll tell you, the very first tip is plan it. I did it all myself. It was a driving vacation. I went online, I found a 3-bedroom condo in Orlando for rent. I rented it for 2 weeks. It was right on a golf course. It was beautiful. There was a pool. It was a great location for my wife and I, her daughter and her daughter's husband, and their 3 kids. It worked out perfectly as far as sleeping arrangements are concerned. I also planned the tickets. I bought tickets to SeaWorld. I bought tickets to Universal. I bought tickets to Disney. And the SeaWorld and Universal were together in a city pass that also covered Busch Gardens in Tampa. So we did all of that. I also planned the dinner shows. We went to 3 different dinner shows as a family, and then we went to a 4th dinner show, just my wife and I at the time. Now, all of this planning was done really specifically. I got out my computer and I went through the route that we were going to travel from New Hampshire down to Florida. I planned the stop overnight before we went into Orlando, and the stop was 800 and change miles away, and it was within 10 miles of the halfway point on our trip. We planned on driving at night because the 3 kids were small, so we drove at night so the kids would sleep while we were driving. We didn't have to stop every 15 minutes. And that worked out really well. We found out actually that everybody in the car was asleep except for me because I was driving. And that worked out perfectly. And so those are the things that we did right. The things that we did not do right had to do with the planning that was done by the family. First, I went through all the rides. I went through everything that we were going on and found out what the height requirements were for everything. And not at any time did anyone measure the height of the kids. And because of that, the youngest child was 1 inch too short to go on several rides. Had we measured and known, we would have done something to get that taken care of, but we didn't know. It was also a case of things to pack. We didn't pack the clothes that we were supposed to pack because my wife at the time was going to make clothes for her and her daughter to wear on the various stops. And she said, oh, I'm going to make all this stuff. She got her sewing machine out. She started getting patterns together. She cut everything. She got everything going. Well, it was the day to leave and the clothes weren't ready. And so into the back of the van went the sewing machine. And when we got to Florida, she was sewing clothes every day. So we never got out the door at a reasonable time. So my next tip is leave your projects home. If you have projects to do for the trip, on the day of the trip, whatever projects aren't done, leave them home, get going. Don't look at that stuff again because it's not going to do you any good. It's going to waste time on your vacation. And it's really going to spoil your vacation. They did not have a great time because they were sewing and trying to get everything ready while the rest of the family was having fun. As a matter of fact, I'll tell you that every morning I would get up about 7 o'clock. I'd go out and there would be the wife and the daughter-in-law, and they would be sewing and working on outfits. And I'd say, how long are you going to be? And they say, oh, not that long. We'll be ready to go in an hour and a half or 2 hours. I'd say, okay, I'm going to go play golf. I'd play 18 holes, come back, take a shower, get dressed to go out for the day, and then I'd wait another half an hour for them to be ready to leave. So we never got out the door before noon on any day of that vacation. But the next thing to talk about is budget. Budget is critical. You don't want to panic over how much money you have on your trip. So what we did as part of the planning page is we got everything paid for that we possibly could. I paid for all the tickets. I paid for the hotels. I paid for the dinner shows. I paid for the rental. I paid for everything that I could before we left. That way, the only things out of my control were gasoline, food at the grocery store, that kind of stuff. And we budgeted for those, and we budgeted high for all of those things. And that worked out really well. So get your budget together, know what you're going to spend, pay as much in advance as you possibly can so that you can get through the vacation with as little stress as you possibly can. It's the best way to go. We even budgeted out souvenirs. We had money for souvenirs for each of the kids. When we ran out of that money, we ran out of souvenirs. That was really the bottom line. And it worked out really, really well. By the way, the child that was 1 inch too short, we went to Walmart the next day and we bought her a pair of sneakers that had soles on them that were about 2 inches thick. After that, she was always tall enough to ride any ride that we wanted to go on. So it worked out okay. The next thing I want to talk about is something that's really critical. When you go to one of these theme parks and you go to the dinner shows that are attached to the theme parks, you have unlimited alcohol. Alcohol is not your friend. Now, if you're responsible, you're an adult, you should understand that drinking to excess is not the way that you want to go. It's not going to make you happy that night. It's not going to make you happy the next morning. You're going to be risking your life and the life of those around you if you're drinking and then driving, and you're going to be ruining the good time for the rest of the people there if you're the drunk in the group. That happened with my son-in-law on the way back from one of the dinner shows, which had unlimited alcohol. He was so sick that I had to stop the car several times so that he could empty his stomach, so to speak, because of all of the alcohol that he had had. Not what you want to do, not what you want your kids to see. It's just not the way you want it to go. So alcohol isn't your friend. You can have a good time, you can relax, but don't overdrink when you're on your family vacation. You don't want the kids to see that, and you don't want to be that way. You don't want to be the sick guy or the drunk guy or the staggering guy or the passed out guy. It's just not what you want to do. So remember, that's tip number 4, alcohol, not your friend. Tip number 5, schedule. Your schedule is something that you do so that you plan everything so you don't miss the things that you want to do. Sounds great. In practice, not so hot. Yes, you should have a general idea of what you're doing. You should say, okay, we're going to go to Disney there are 4 lands in Disney. We're going to go to Disney for 4 days, and we're going to allow a day for a water park, and that's what we're going to do at Disney. So we got 5 Disney days. We're going to go to Universal for 3 days, 4 days, whatever it is. We're going to go to SeaWorld for a day. We'll go to Aquatica, which is their water park, for a day. And we're going to try to space that out. And that's as much schedule as you want. Our schedule on this trip was Monday we go to this park, Tuesday we go to that park, Wednesday we go to this park. By the time we got 3 or 4 days into that schedule, we realized that it wasn't working for anybody. We were tired. We needed a break. It was best to go to that water park in between a couple of the other parks. It was best to kind of relax a little bit. The SeaWorld day was a relaxing day because it's a smaller park and it's different. It has the sea life, the water shows that you go to. So it was a little nicer, and it made it a little nicer for the vacation. So schedule loosely. Yes, you have to purchase your dinner shows in advance, and that's fine. So you can schedule for those dinner shows, but the rest of the time, you really need to leave yourself enough time so that you can enjoy yourself. One of the places on this trip that we actually enjoyed was stopping at south of the border in South Carolina. And it's kind of a cool little place. It's a roadside stop on Route 95, and it's just some place that you ought to check out sometime. I'll try to find some photos of it for later, and I'll include them in another episode. But for now, that's all of my suggestions. So just remember, it's planning, it's leave your projects home, budget, alcohol is not your friend, and make sure that you schedule loosely enough so that you can really have a good time. And, I'm going to back up to that planning just a little bit. If you have small kids, see how tall they are. Read the heights of the rides at the various places you're going. Make whatever adjustments you need to make at home. We got lucky that Walmart had the sneakers with the high soles in that little girl's size. Because they did, we never had a problem getting her on a ride. But had they not had those sneakers, we wouldn't have been able to get her on half the rides, and then either her mom or her dad would have to sit out with her and then go on the ride afterwards. It would have delayed the whole process and would have made it much more difficult for us as a family. We ended up having a good time. There's one other thing that I wanted to mention about this, and this was something that happened to us, and it was critical. We came home on September 9th, 2001. On that morning of September 9th, we were in New York. And I woke the kids up from their sleep so that they could see the Empire State Building and the World Trade Center. My wife at the time said, "Don't wake the kids up. They can see that anytime." And I said, "You don't know when they're going to be in New York City again, and you don't know what could happen between now and the next time they're in New York City." And we woke the kids up, pointed out everything to them, and of course 2 days later was the attack on 9/11. When you're in a place and you have the opportunity to see something, especially something that is historic or special piece of architecture, when you have an opportunity to see that and share that with your kids, do it. Do it right then. Don't wait around. You don't know what's going to happen. You don't know when the next time is that you're going to be there. So make sure you take that advantage of that time. Make sure that you spend the time to really enjoy the landscape of where you're traveling, because you never know. Once again, I'm going to ask you to go down and hit that subscribe button. Hit the bell that gets you notified every time that I've got a video out. Please hit the like button and send me a comment. Tell me what you like. Tell me what you don't like. Tell me what you'd like to hear. I'd really appreciate that. But until the next time, I'll see you on vacation.